I am hoping you can all hear me. Give me a shout if you can. Woo! Cool, beautiful. Just because it's a panel doesn't mean we can't be interactive and make it a bit exciting. So it is called Ignite. So I'd love to ignite you all today and get you excited about what we're going to be talking about, which is the mental health and well-being panel. So probably a good time to check you're in the right room. Yeah, good. No one meant to be on meaningful work. Good, this one's going to be better, I hear. So stay here with us. So beautiful, thank you so much for taking the time to come with us. This is the first, one of the first panels, and this is on our first strategic pillar, which is under mental health and well-being, but particularly sits under the pillar of community well-being. So we've got some awesome people in the room, which I'll introduce to you in a minute, and some awesome people online as well. This is a truly hybrid event. So welcome to our speakers who are online, but also welcome to everybody who's in the room, but also everyone who's watching from across the world. So first thing I would like to do is just acknowledge traditional owners and custodians across the many lands on which we are on today, but also across the world of people who are zooming in as well. So make that acknowledgement to Indigenous owners who are traditional owners of those lands. Also, because child protection and safeguarding does fall under this pillar, I just want to make an acknowledgement of all child survivors of abuse, because we will talk about that partly in here as well, and acknowledge that there has been failings to keeping kids safe, and that's one thing we must do in the future is, as a YMCA and as a world, is put children and young people first, and adults to keep them safe. So a couple of acknowledgements there. The fun stuff, housekeeping. So if you're online, I'm sure you know exactly where your emergency exit is, including your kettle. If you're in the room, the emergency exits are down here if you want to go up, or at the back. So it depends whether you want to do a workout and run up the stairs or come downstairs. I will ask you, if possible, to turn your phones off. I know they're the biggest extensions of our arms, but if you can turn them off or put them to silent, scary, please try, because it'll be really respectful to the panel and to each other just to turn your phones off. The other thing, which we're going to see if it works, who knows, is a World Council, we'll go with it. We're going to find out whether you should be able to, in the room and online, you should be able to send your questions via the text chat of some sort. If you're in the room, don't worry, I've got a microphone, so we might go old school and give you a microphone, because tech hasn't been our friend. But if you're online, please put your questions into the chat, and we will do our best to come to them for the panel. So, I haven't done an introduction to me yet, but that's on purpose, because I'm going to do a brief round of introductions. So, hello, my name is Phil. Woo! You can hear I managed to bully my team to come down, and got Y Australia here. So, I use the pronouns he and him, and I am from YMCA Australia. I am the acting CEO of YMCA Safeguarding, which is a child protection charity in Australia, which is run nationally. My background is I've worked on the Olympic Games, London 2012 Olympic Games, Arsenal Football Club, so any of the Brits who are here yet? Ooh, usually it's a few boos, I get in that sense. Arsenal Football Club, British tennis as the head of child protection. So that's kind of my background. And my fun fact about me, just a little bit about me, I used to be a British sprinter, but now I can't run for a bus, so don't ask me to do that whatsoever. So that's me, I'm going to be your moderator today. I'm going to try and keep everyone on time. Good luck with that, we'll see how we go. And I'll be passing around to the awesome panel who have got great experience in this space. So the first person I would also like to introduce, so I'm going to come over to Daniel. So Daniel's in the room right here, so we finally have a face-to-face, not just me.
Hello, everyone.
So Daniel also uses the pronouns he and him. He is currently the manager of programs and services and innovation. So expect some good stuff, some innovation stuff here for the YMCA of Latin America and the Caribbean. He's got 15 years of experience working with YMCA in Mexico and regionally. And Daniel is currently leading a regional mental health program in the Latin America and Caribbean context based on prevention, raising awareness, and breaking the stigma about mental health issues, which we know are rife at the moment and throughout our communities. Daniel is enthusiastic about working for young people and has a positive attitude and experience to encourage others to work hard and succeed. So he's an awesome addition. And to give you the fun fact about Daniel, I've got two. He likes to actually paint plant pots, personalized plant pots in his spare time. So if you fancy that, please go to him. But he's also one of the many, it seems, who have lost their luggage on here and still hasn't got it. So So if you've got any spare t-shirts, please do help
Please
Daniel out. So thank you, Daniel. Welcome to the panel. Second person, so I'm hoping might be able to zoom them online, is Samatha Hartley-Folz. So yay, so if we go to the top left, Sam, give us a wave, yay. Yay. So Sam uses the pronouns she and her. She's the general manager for community operations at the YMCA of Greater Vancouver. So we're being joined all the way from, is it sunny Canada at the moment? Ish. Okay, ish sunny Canada. So, and Sam provides community leadership, leadership in the community health, mental wellness, youth employment and immigration services department. Sam came to the Y in September 2017 to guide the successful provincial scale-up of Y-Mind, which you'll hear about today, and MindFit, and other province-wide community health programs. And before doing this role, Sam was working in the BC Alliance for Healthy Living for 10 years in prevention and health promotion. And a fun fact, if you want to know about Sam, is she loves to travel the world and read, but she also has 2 teenagers, so she gets to deal with those tasks on a daily basis, don't you, Sam? Awesome. Now we're also going to come over to Ella, so on the left-hand side. So she is, hey Ella. Ella uses pronouns she and her. She's the youth participation lead for Origin Global. She's also an Australian, so we've got 2 of us kind of here, so great to have you in the room, Ella. Ella has lived experience advocate and public health practitioner. She specializes in youth and community engagement. At Origin, which you'll hear about today, she's responsible for developing and facilitating initiatives to ensure that Origin Global meaningfully includes values and centers a diverse range of youth voices worldwide. They've got a really good program, which you're going to hear about, which is co-designed by young people. She's facilitated workshops and consultations nationally and internationally with young people and created a global framework for youth mental health. So I'm sure you're going to want to tap into that for today. Fun fact about Ella, she does actually have 200 plants. One is behind you, I can see Ella, which is great. But she also has a great golden retriever called Frankie, who's only ever eaten one of those plants. So welcome, Ella. And finally, we're going to go to who is our keynote speaker, and this is Matias. Matias uses the pronouns he and him, and he is the regional, yes, Matias. Sorry, Matias, I cut you off from the clap. Very rude of me already. Matias is with the World Health Organization, so he's going to be speaking to us first. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist and associate professor at the University of Chile. He was the director of mental health at the Chilean Ministry of Health, designing the Mental Health Action Plan, and directing the COVID National Plan for Mental Health. So you're going to hear some really good stuff from him today about what he's seen, but also what's going to be some of the outputs and some of the struggles which people are facing now. Matias currently works with the countries of the regions of the Americas, promoting and coordinating technical activities to improve the capacity around mental health. So he's awesome. A fun fact about Matias is that he does have an identical twin, who is also a doctor, but he's an orthopedic surgeon, his twins, so they can't swap jobs. So that's Matias. So give us a big round of applause to our massive panel. So technology is working so far, which is great. I'm happy about this. So we're going to go over to Matias. He's going to give us a 10-minute presentation about mental health and some of the stats around child abuse and abuse in the world as well. So he's going to lead on that for us. So Matias, I will hand over to you, and I'll be quiet for once.
Thank you, Phil. Do you hear me?
Don't know if you can see me. Yes? Can you put on? Is the mic still on? Yes, Matias, we can go.
Excellent.
Yep, yay.
Great. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, YMCA and the organizers for having me on this panel. I will present briefly today about actions to optimize young people and brain mental health around the world. And I will start with a brief presentation. And then we're going to have some space for discussion that I'm very excited about. The first thing is that we need to know is mental health is so important. It's so important not only in adolescent mental health, but also during the whole life. We know that mental disorders are a significant and often ignored cause of suffering that interfere with adolescent and young people's health and education and their ability to reach their full potential. It is estimated that more than 13% of adolescents live with a diagnosed mental disorder, and this represents 89 million adolescent boys and 77 million adolescent girls with a mental disorder in the world. The prevalence rates are highest in some regions of the world, like Middle East and North Africa, North America, and Western Europe regions. And anxiety and depression make up about 40% of the diagnosed mental disorders. In terms of suicide, more than 45,000 adolescents died from suicide each year, 1 every 11 minutes. And suicide is the fourth most prevalent cause of death for adolescent boys and girls. The annual loss in human capital rising from mental health conditions in young people is over 400 billion US dollars. And despite widespread demand for responses that promote, protect, and care for adolescent and youth mental health, investment remains insignificant. The median government expenditure on mental health globally is a mere 2% of the median government expenditure on health in general. And we must say that the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, has upended our world, creating a global crisis unprecedented in our lifetime. It has created serious concerns about the mental health of young people and their families, and has illustrated in stark terms how events in the wider world can affect us all. Multiple studies have reported the deterioration of the mental health of adolescents during the pandemic. 27% of young women reported a higher percentage of anxiety and 15% more depression, a situation that generates deep concern and is a call to national health authorities is that 73% have felt the need to ask for help concerning their physical and mental well-being, and despite this, 40% did not ask for help. For if the pandemic has taught us anything, is that our mental health is profoundly affected by the world around us. We are connected. Far from being simply a question of what is going in a person's mind, the state of each adolescent's mental health is profoundly affected by the circumstances of their lives, their experiences with parents, with caregivers, the connections they form with friends, their chances to play, learn, and grow. Mental health is also a reflection of the ways their lives are influenced by the poverty, conflict, disease, and access to opportunities that exist in the world. But the pandemic also offers an opportunity to build back to get better. We have a historic chance to communicate, and take action to promote, protect, and care for the mental health of a generation. To understand the complexity of interventions, it is necessary to consider a model which is called the social ecological model. This model highlights the importance of addressing risk factors at individual, family, community, and societal levels to promote and protect adolescent mental health, with due attention to sociocultural context and care system. The implementation of interlinked strategies and implementation approach is likely to be influenced in different settings by specific features of local context, resources, cultural values, existing health services, delivery systems, and other positive or negative factors. WHO and UNICEF proposes are 4 strategies. The first one is to implement an enforcement of policies and laws to improve adolescent mental health outcomes, embracing a whole of government and whole of society approach. The second one is to improve the environment to promote and protect adolescent mental health. This strategy seeks to enhance adolescent physical and social environments where communicated through a range of evidence-based activities such as school climate interventions, adolescent safe spaces in communities, and teacher training. The third strategy is the caregiver support, which refers to interventions to build caregivers' knowledge and skills for promoting adolescent mental health, to strengthen caregivers and adolescent relationships and support caregivers' own mental health and well-being. And the fourth one is adolescent psychosocial interventions focuses on evidence-based psychosocial interventions for universal, targeted, and indicated promotion and mental health prevention. There are many examples of initiatives that can be used to implement these strategies. Helping Adolescents Thrive, HAT, is a joint WHO UNICEF initiative to strengthen programming and policy responses for adolescents, to promote positive mental health, to prevent mental health conditions, and prevent self-harm and other risk behaviors. Combined with it will be an effective tool to support students' social and emotional learning. That's why UNICEF and the World Health Organization created the first in a series of magnificent May comics and a teacher's guide to support social and emotional learning among adolescents aged 10 to 14 years. And doing what matters in terms of stress, an illustrated guide is a stress management guide for coping with adversity. The guide aims to equip people with practical skills to help cope with stress. Informed by evidence and extensive field testing, the guide is for anyone who experiences stress wherever they live and whatever their circumstances. A few minutes each day are enough to practice the self-help techniques, and the guide can be used alone or with the audio exercise. All of this material are free. The Pan American Health Organization, the WHO regional office, has collaborated also with the countries to train a cohort of trainers in mental health literacy to address the expected increase in mental health needs of secondary age school children due to COVID pandemic. The mental health literacy approach was designed to enhance the understanding about mental health and mental disorders and try to reduce stigma, helping to build capacity to obtain and maintain good mental health, including linking adolescents with appropriate referral services. But youth mental health is not only about programs, but also health systems. A tiered system provides a way of thinking of the range of services across mental health and addictions and related services. The intention is that a young person or family could access services across the different tiers depending on need and up or down the tiers. And this is the step care model. Adolescents and their families may enter at any point and then move within these tiers based on their needs. Mental health services for young people may be available in different settings. And we know, for example, that could be mental health, could be, for example, young people mental health outside of the health sector, in general health services, in primary health care, and in community. You can see there are different examples of where the mental health services can be in different settings. But it's also important to take care about the quality of the services. All these services need to be integrated at community level using early intervention models or one-stop access points, collaborative care, empowerment of young people and families in treatment choices, and obviously to have a human rights-based perspective. One important package that can be used to scale up services for mental, neurological, and substance use disorders is Ymca. This program asserts that with a proper care, psychosocial assistance, and medication, tens of millions could be treated for depression, schizophrenia, and epilepsy, prevented from suicide, and begin to lead normal lives, even where resources are scarce. So this is a my last slide and some takeaway messages. Around the world, mental disorders are significant and often ignored. It's a cause of suffering that interfere with young people's health and education and their ability to reach their full potential. Mental health is widely stigmatized and misunderstood. It is in fact a positive state of well-being and a foundation that allows young people to build their futures. Interventions across a range of systems and sectors, including families, communities, and schools, and through social protection can help to promote and protect mental health. A renewed focus on creating a supported environment that enables positive mental health for adolescents is urgently needed. And by effectively implementing a comprehensive set of strategies to support adolescent mental health, young people will enjoy improved well-being and will be able to realize their potential and participate meaningfully in their communities. Thank you very much for this opportunity of presenting in this panel. I would like to acknowledge the help of Chiara Servilli from WHO and Renato Oliveira from PAHO WHO. I'm very willing to enter the discussion and to get some questions from you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Oh, are we on? Yep. Hey, there we go. We're on. Thank you so much, Matias. Can I have a round of applause to Matias? So just, I suppose, some real key things I pulled out from there was around 10% of young people experiencing mental health, which particularly in our work at the Y, what we're doing and around the YMCAs in the world, that's going to be cutting across a number of the young people you work with, and I'm sure that some of you actually have programs directly working in this space. The other thing which I suppose horrified me, and most things don't horrify me, was the 45,000 young people die each year from suicide, being 1 every 11 minutes. So effectively in this panel, seeing around 9 young people will be committing suicide. So shocking, I think, for a lot of people here. I can imagine that's a shocking stat and the role the Y can actually play within this space. And obviously lots of things to pick up from you there, Matias, but a key one as well, which I really love, was the range of systems and sectors need to come together. And it's not one person's role or one sector's role. And as we come to Ella and Samantha later and Daniel, we'll talk about the YMCA and other organizations who integrate as sectors and what we can do. And also I'd love to hear later on about some of the great work you guys are doing out there as well. So we do have some time for questions for Matias. We do have some, hopefully, we might have some questions online, we might not. So if you're on the online world, please do type in the chat box about them. Samantha, Ella, and Daniel, if you've got any questions for Matias as well, more than happy for you to jump in. But what I'm going to get you to do is to firstly turn to the person next to you, say hello. Hopefully they aren't the same person from your organization. They probably are, because we're creatures of habit. But also have a discussion about any questions you may have based on what Matias said. If you want to find someone new, find someone new. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do that. Okay, everybody. Gonna get you back. So I'm gonna put my hands up because that's usually what works. There we go. You can tell I work with kids because it's always the thing which sometimes works, isn't it? You put your hand up and everyone's quiet. It's great. So, great loud discussion. I hope it wasn't about lunch, but I hope it was about something around you've just heard. So, any questions people have for Matias at the moment from what he just talked about? Yes, down the front, so I'm going to come to you. I've got a mic as well, and it's number 1. There we go. Look. Yeah, it works.
Hello,
Dave, say your name and where you're from and your question.
Dave from Australia. That's very loud. In relation to schools, is there enough being done in school, early childhood education, with regards to prevention? And if not, what can be done to, I guess, increase the awareness, if you like, from that point of view?
Good question. So, Matias, over to you.
Thanks for the question. It's a very important one.
Wait, just start again, Matias. We didn't hear you. Do you mind starting again, please? Yeah.
What about now?
Yep, we can hear you. Perfect.
Great. Well, I'm listening an echo. Do you hear me well? Okay, so
Online as well, we can't hear. Okay, so it's maybe the.
what about now? Do you hear me?
Yay! There we go.
Okay. So one of the things that Phil was very clear about is that the health sector can be the only one that do actions related to mental health. Mental health needs collaboration, needs to have YMCA, needs to have NGOs, foundations, need to have the education sector in to try to not only get to the population that we need, but also to improve the multi-sectoral actions that are meant to be. And schools are so important. And there are many things that can be done. I mentioned to you one initiative that at least in 5 countries in the Americas we have been doing, which is mental health literacy. Because one of the things that we know is that most of the teachers and most of the students know a lot about many things, but when you ask them about mental health, even how do you detect mental health problems in the classmate can be a challenge, can be difficult. We know a lot about COVID and how to cough and how to use masks, but we don't know many about mental health. And there is mental health first, psychological first aid. There's mental health literacy that can be used with the teachers, with manuals that are free and are open. There's also intervention that can, for example, prevent suicide in schools. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that was all good. Thank you, Matias. Great answer. Thank you. So, great for the online for the floor. So we're going to online. We've got a question, so it's working. Can I get a cheer because it's actually working? Woo! I didn't sleep last night because I thought this would not work. So, question from the online, which what are the strategies you might suggest to engage the government at all levels? Here in Canada, the person's from Canada, and they've talked about they have 4 levels in the conversation around mental health support for young people and their caregivers. So what strategies could you do to engage government, and what can the YMCAs do, so people from the YMCA here, do to engage government at all levels? Thank you. thinking Matias may have froze. Cool. Are we back?
Hello, Phil.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're frozen, so
Yeah, sorry.
please feel free to talk, and hopefully we'll get your face back.
Yeah, we're having some connection problems. Sorry about that. But I can hear you now.
Beautiful. Did you hear the question? Did you hear the question, Matias, from the floor, or do you need me to repeat it?
Bill, do you hear me?
Yes, okay. I can hear you. What I may do is, Matias, while we get you back, because you're frozen, Sam, I don't know if you may know some of this, because you're in Canada, so I thought maybe come to you. So it was planned very well, this. Matias, we'll just pause you for a minute and we'll come to Sam, if that's okay.
Sure. So I would say what Matias was saying around mental health literacy, around mental health first aid. Those are both happening, and there's a lot of interest in those in Canada. And we always bring it up with our colleagues in our Ministry of Health here provincially in British Columbia. We have a strong relationship with our ministry. As well with the Public Health Agency of Canada. And then there's also a lot of conversations going on within schools. I sit on a provincial committee, the BC School-Centered Mental Health Committee, and it's all about all of these topics. There's so much interest. It's just connecting the dots between the official frameworks, the policy documents that governments are producing, what's going on in our communities, and pulling those pieces together at tables where those conversations are happening. So I've seen a lot of change over the last 5 to 10 years in that area, a lot more cross-pollination than there used to be, but there's a long way to go as well. So I would encourage WISE to take part in those conversations, talk to your others in the community who are doing this work, who will be great, who you can refer your youth to, and likewise, who can refer their youth to the WISE, even if it's just for those physical activity and connection opportunities that are so critical to youth to support their mental health.
Round of applause for Sam for stepping in for us. Thank you, Sam. And Matias will come back to you in a second when we come to the wider panel, but actually now you're on, Sam. I'm going to go over to Sam. I've introduced her, but she's going to talk briefly for a couple of minutes about the program they've introduced into Canada around mental health and the work she's done in this space. So over to you, Sam, to give us a bit of an overview about what you've done.
Okay, great. A little bit of an echo. And it's gone away. Great. So I wanted to talk to everyone about the work we're doing here in Greater Vancouver and provincially in BC. And just like you, in RY in 2015, we had two fantastic people working in our youth employment department who saw the need in the youth they were working with for more mental health support, that these youth had levels of anxiety that was more in that milder range, but it was stopping them from finding and, more importantly, keeping employment. But there wasn't a lot of resources out there at that mild to moderate level. And so they came back to our Y and got a $5,000 innovation grant to look for an answer. And they found a curriculum out of the US, out of post-secondary, from Matt Boone at Cornell. We always like to acknowledge his early work. And he gave them permission to use the work and adapt it for a community delivery. It was at that point a 6-week psycho-ed program that was a closed group. So 10 to 12 youth would come together. They had self-identified as having anxiety or symptoms thereof. There was no barriers, so no cost, no referral, no doctor required. They just self-identified as feeling stressed and worried, and they came together over the 6 week to learn different skills. We use mindfulness and acceptance and commitment therapy as the basis of that program. And part of what they did, which was so incredible, which was so much forethought, is they did pre and post assessments with those youth over 5 different groups. They collected the data. They talked to the youth about, it was great in terms of telling them, here's where you were when you started, and here's where you are now. So we collected that data, and then based on the results of that data, we went to our provincial Ministry of Health and said, we're getting these great results in terms of early intervention. We're seeing youth who were at a clinical level when they came into the program be at a subclinical level in terms of their anxiety when they're done. We really think we have something here, and we'd like to share it more broadly. And so over the last 5 years, we've scaled that program, our Y-Mind program, across British Columbia. We've served over 3,000 youth, both teens in our 13 to 18 program and youth 18 to 30. Across 44 communities in BC. So we're pretty proud of that. And it's something that we've had a lot of interest in from our national Ys. And over the last year, we've been doing a small scale up, which we're hoping to grow very shortly nationally. And it's a program that uses the youth themselves, that they can connect with one another, that they hear from others that are having similar. They think anxiety can be so isolating. And part of the magic of the groups and part of the why is that sense of connection, of hearing from others the same types of experiences that you're experiencing and not feeling so alone. So yes, the activities we run them through, the tools that we teach them are so critical, but also that connection. That group piece is so important. And we always figured it was an in-person only program, and that was the only way to achieve that level of connection. Well, in March 2020, we had groups underway, and we didn't want to leave those teens and youth without the program that they were halfway through. So we took 10 days, and my amazing staff flipped the program to online delivery. And we've been delivering it online through the pandemic, kept our communities connected, and according to the data. So we have an outside evaluator who still runs our data for us and provides reports that the online delivery of the program was getting similar results to the in-person. And it means we can connect youth in smaller communities to programs where we don't have a partnership or the availability to get into that particular community. So it's been a joy and my privilege to work with the program over the last almost 5 years, and really invite you, if you have questions, to follow up and ask them either in this venue or reach out to us online.
Thanks, Sam. Really love the point around connection and young people supporting each other. We'll come to questions later, so we are going to do a series of presentations, and then we'll start thinking of some questions you may have for Sam. But Sam, a quick one. If anyone does want to look at any information about the program, is there anything on the website or where they can look for your program?
Yeah, so if you go to gv.ymca.ca, Greater Vancouver YMCA.ca. There's just a rough outline of the program, and then ymind at gv.ymca.ca gets you to my staff, and we can answer any questions. And if you'd like to follow up with me, I'm sure my contact information will be available. We have the evaluation reports for any of you data nerds out there.
Any data nerds in the room? Ooh, there we go. We got a couple. Beautiful. but a great program and a program which works. And again, you need some points around translation of it. But and actually, I'll come later. Sam will talk about maybe how this may work with Indigenous communities as well. And there's only work done with that space. So start thinking of some questions you may have for Sam. But we're now going to come to the room. So you've seen online, your necks are probably a little bit sore from looking up, especially on the front row. So I'm going to come to Daniel, and we're going to welcome Daniel, who's going to talk. He's from the YMCA of Latin America and Caribbean, and he'll talk about the program he's developing in this space. So thanks, Daniel.
Muchas gracias, Phil. Thank you very much, and hopefully not freezing here. So. And thank you, by the way, for the t-shirts for the Australian team. So in my freeze I got. Thank you very much. But not think that this is my clothes from Saturday. So it is clean. Okay, so I want to start sharing that fortunately our program is getting on well. So with some delays and issues as many big projects at initial stage. So we are learning along the way. We are still on the design and development of the content and the structure of the program, but we have had significant progress during these 2 years of work, since 2020 that we started this project. So this is project that started because many CEOs of the YMCAs in Latin America and Caribbean identified or expressed the necessity to create something that would respond to the problem that many young people present in relation to mental health. As we saw previously with Matias, this is a serious thing, and in Latin America it's not a different. The regional node, as LACA YMCA, put the workers to work, creating a regional mental health network formed by amazing leaders, volunteers, and staff from 6 countries of the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. So hopefully they are online. So thank you for being here. And simultaneously, the node carried out some research on other programs inside and outside the YMCA that could serve as an example for not starting from scratch. One of them was the YMind program from Canada. And also the other was the Mental Health Champions program from the UK and Wales. So if someone from UK is here, thank you. Part of our staff team of the Latin America and the Caribbean Alliance of YMCA made a research also on mental health in the region to identify demographics, statistics, and other information that could be taken into account for the development of the program. So from those researches, we found that the mental health champions model from the UK and Wales was very relevant, and we believed it had the potential to adapt to our context. After several conversations with Graham, maybe you know him, so if there are people from the UK, maybe you know. Unfortunately, he left the Y shortly after, but he was very helpful. So we got the toolkit and the manual, and we started with its translation and adaptation to the Latin American and Caribbean context. In this process for its adaptation, we interviewed several staff and volunteers from many movements in the region. And well, in this case, from other institutions to identify synergies or differences between the content of the Mental Health Champions program and other necessities identified in Latin America and the Caribbean. So following the model of Mental Health Champions, our regional program consists in 3 main components. One of them is peer-to-peer, because we identified that studies, or also with studies that says that young people are more open to express their feelings with other young people. The other component is key adults. So this component consists in training adults that are directly or indirectly related with a young person, such as teachers, trainers, parents, among others. So in order to equip them to have a healthy and meaningful relation with young people. And unlike mental health champions that have counseling as the 3rd component, our regional mental health program adapted that one, and we name it psychological accompaniment. That means that young people can receive support from volunteers, psychologists, with a specific profile in order to help the young person to be canalized to a public or private institution, or public institutions. Although this can be underlined because a challenge that we will face in the implementation stage, so hopefully this could be soon, is that many countries in Latin America haven't the quality enough to provide good services to those young people. So we have this necessity also of the YMCA to provide these services to young people in the region. Of course, we have some challenges, so we have faced some challenges during the process, and I think one of the main challenges we will face during also the implementation is the adaptation of the program to different contexts and realities of the YMCAs in the region. So you can imagine, even locally, when you are working with a program of mental health, so imagine regionally when we have to present a program that can be adapted to 24 countries in the region. So it's a big challenge for us. Another challenge is, of course, the search for funds for a program like ours. So, for example, we haven't sent proposals for several organizations and foundations like Grand Challenge Canada, but we haven't been successful yet, so hopefully soon. But fortunately, our strategic partners, YUSA, Canada, have made some donation for the development of the program. So we are very soon to start the first pilots in 3 or 4 countries in the region to see how is the program running, and hopefully very soon we will have some good news to start implementing the program in the whole region of the Latin America and Caribbean YMCA. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Daniel. And I know lots of us have had troubles getting programs up and running and some of the delays with that. A quick question for you, and I know you connected and reached out to Sam, and you said to England and Wales as well. Have you found that collaboration easy? Was it easy to collaborate with some of the other YMCAs from across the world?
Yeah, of course, it was easy because we have partnership with them, so and also because we feel that we have the same necessity to give some responses to the young people in any part of the world. So I think it was easier for us.
Beautiful, thank you. I suppose a bit of a call to action there is that we've got so many people in this room and online, actually how many great programs are going across the world. And we do need to look externally, but we can also look internally with us. I know in Australia they do YMind as well as one of the programs, and so it's a great one to connect and see where we can adapt. And culturally, not everything's going to work, that's okay, but some of those processes we can put in place to start to adapt and leverage off each other, so that key word around collaboration in there. So thank you so much. A round of applause again for Daniel. Cool. We're going to go back online and we're going to go very down south to Australia, to the other side of the world. I think it's quite late over there, Ella, so thank you for joining us. Is it 9, 10 in the evening?
11:30.
11:30. Okay. Oh, I got that horribly wrong. There you go. That was a rubbing it in for her. So yeah. So give her a huge round of applause first for being up at this late. There's not enough coffee, which can probably keep you up. So I'm going to hand over to you, Ella, and promise you we've only got about 45 minutes left, so you can go to sleep after this.
Thanks, Phil. I have a terrible sleep schedule, so this is totally fine by me. I'm a night owl. But thank you for inviting me to be here today. I'm really thrilled to be joining you all, and just acknowledge that I'm joining you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and like to pay my respects to elders past and present. And so I thought just to start off, I'd give you some context, because obviously I'm not from Y, I'm from Origin in Australia. We're a youth mental health organisation with expertise in education, research, policy and innovations in care. And I'm from our global team, which is relatively new. It's sort of only been around the last couple of years or so. And it all really started in 2019. One of Origin's National Youth Advisory Council members, Carlo, was also doing some work with the World Economic Forum, and he noticed there was quite a lot of conversations happening about mental health with them, obviously quite a bit happening in our field as well. He sort of saw a potential there to have a partnership, and so he made some connections, and lo and behold, we ended up having this partnership project that took off in 2019. So also just, I guess, shout out that this is all possible because of an introduction from a young person, so pretty amazing stuff. And so what happened was in 2019, we undertook a range of consultations to develop a global framework for youth mental health. So really taking the key learnings from countries like Australia, Canada, UK that have really established mental health systems, and thinking about how do we actually tackle that challenge that we were just talking about in the last presentation of how do you really adapt that to a local context? It's such a big question, and so that's what we sought out to do. And also develop a global advocacy toolkit that can be used to advocate for youth mental health. And so in this project, we had two youth strategic advisors, Natea and Maddie, who, along with myself, we consulted with over 500 young people from over 20 countries from memory to co-design this advocacy toolkit and the framework. And it took quite a long time, quite a few months, and it was, hard work, but we developed a product in the end that outlines the stages of advocacy, so sort of some strategies, some tools to really give some ideas, I suppose, depending on where a young person might be at with their advocacy journey. They can pick up this toolkit and it'll have hopefully some really practical advice in there for wherever they are in their journey. So we're really proud of this. It was established, co-designed with a lot of young people, both in the sort of core working team, but also in these wider consultations. But we were equally wary that it could just risk being another document that kind of sits online and people forget about it. And so Maddie and Natea, the amazing superstars that they are, they came up with this idea of developing a global youth mental health advocacy fellowship. So really actually bringing it to life. So this spurred on the creation of this program that uses the toolkit as the basis of the curriculum. And so over the course of the year, they really built this up. We worked on funding plans together, and we had our first cohort of the fellowship in 2020. 14 young people from 14 different countries, amazing youth advocates, and training them in advocacy skills. And they all came with a local project in mind to do with mental health. So then sort of giving them those skills to be able to push that project forward that's suitable for their local context, because they're the ones actually doing it. So it's now an established program. We're just now going through the application phase for our third cohort from the South Asian region. So shout out if you are from the ASEAN region. Applications are open for young people to apply. But I think something that's really worth highlighting that I'm really proud of is that this was genuinely designed and led by young people. Both Natea and Maddie are now staff members. We have a team of 4. We're all women under 30. So it's pretty amazing, I think, to have this entire program that's being government funded now for 3 years looking ahead. We've secured that funding, and it all came from these consultations because Natea and Maddie just kept hearing the same story from young people around the world. Like, people were doing amazing work, but they were doing it in isolation, and they were doing it without any formal training and support. So this is sort of designed, I suppose, to fill that gap. So pretty amazing stuff. And I think with what's working well, we've got really promising evaluation data. Because it is being led by young people, we have, I think, a really good understanding of what young people need and want. And also, I think it's quite unique in the sense of the power dynamic in the program. We're able to have really good discussions about what the fellows, the young people need, and we can be really agile depending on their feedback. So if things aren't working, we swap it up, we change it up. And that's been really important, I think, for the success of the program. We have fellows from over 20 countries now. And I think just to highlight some of the sort of amazing things that's being achieved, we have young people that are delivering mental health services through sign language in Kenya. We've reached over 21,000 people with a viral mental health awareness video campaign. And we've got some young people in India curating festivals of change. And one of the fellows launched an alliance for suicide prevention. So pretty incredible. And I think the main learning I take away from this is that back in 2019 with this partnership project with the World Economic Forum, I could have never imagined that this is where it would have landed, with a full-on program that we've got 4 staff members, 4 employed to do this. It all came from, the idea, and it was built up from the ground from the young people that were consultants on the project. I think, having this program that's designed and for young people really emphasizes that it's worth trusting that young people really know what's needed. And they have so many amazing ideas. We just need to actually make the space for them to thrive and let that come to life. So I hope that gives a little bit of context to the work that we're doing and have done to date, and happy to take any questions.
Beautiful. Thanks again, Ella. That's incredible. Key stuff are really around there again about young people leading the response for themselves, which is something which we all do in this space, but something actually we can always continue to do more. Young people do know some of the solutions which are affecting them and how can we empower them pretty much within the Y and some of that work. So before, again, think of some questions you may have for Ella, because we're going to be coming to a question time very shortly. Ella, if they want to find some information about your program, I'm going to go for another website or something you can jump out so people can scribble down, but where can they find more information out about this?
Yeah, for sure. If you Google the words origin with a Y, ORYGEN, Global Fellowship, it'll be the first link to pop up, and we have the different fellowships. There's a global one, which is open to everyone under 30, or 30 or under, sorry, in the world. And then we have a specific one for the ASEAN region, sort of South Asia. So have a look. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Ella. So I'm going to quickly do a very short one. So Ella and Sam and Matias, if you need a drink of water, grab it, because you can breathe for 5 minutes, and then we're going to come to questions. So as we kind of flip slightly, so you've heard some incredible stuff from these three presenters really around mental health and what's being done for young people. I'm going to give you a slight change of tact because under this pillar, you may have seen that one of the goals which has been voted in is around developing policies and practices to keep children and young people safe from harm or maltreatment. So to give you just very 5 minutes around what we've done in the Y in Australia, around keeping kids safe from harm. Some call it safeguarding, some call it child protection, some of it's not known in other cultures or languages within those terms, but effectively preventing abuse of children and young people. So sadly, if you don't know this, we did have a child abuse case which was quite well known in Australia. One of our young out-of-school hours care staff abused 10 young boys in our care, and it was known in the Royal Commission in Australia. Something which we own, it's happened, we're not trying to hide from, it's something which, hence the acknowledgement at the start around survivors of abuse and at the Y in Australia, and I hope around the world are doing everything to keep kids safe. So the Royal Commission, which is kind of like a really high level inquiry, which talks around, does investigations around what was done well or what wasn't done well within organisations in child abuse. They looked at us and we was one of a case study of many organisations, so it wasn't just the Y. There was swimming, other sports, and other organisations, the church, etc., where this has happened. And I'm sure across the world, I know in England and Wales this is happening, and other places in America as well. So common themes which are going on. One thing they found, which was really quite worrying for us at the Y, was that it took, on average, 23.9 years for a child who had been sexually abused to disclose they'd been abused. 24 years to actually tell someone. So at the Y, we thought this is completely unacceptable and we need to do something about it. So our approach in this space, and similar to in terms of, it's abuse around the mental health space, because we know that when children experience abuse, mental health incidences knock-on are severe. And what Matias said there was about 1 in 3 talking around who do they tell. So one thing we was trying to work out that was why did it take 24 years for young people to tell? And that's in Australia, but I can imagine across the world the stats are probably similar-ish. So we went round the country, and we're a very large country, and we're very diverse. So we flew over the country and we spoke to 500 children and young people from a range of backgrounds, those from LGBTQ backgrounds, those living with mental health issues, those of our Indigenous communities, those living with disabilities, and a range from 3 years old all the way up to 18 to ask them around what they do around if they're worried about something. So not worried about abuse, just worried about something, so they should tell someone. And they came up and sort of co-designed an incredible program with us, which again talks about abuse, but we talk around it in a more broader, wide set, so it could be around mental health as well. It was based on a theory called Ludge Theory. Does anyone know Ludge Theory here? Yeah, a number of you have heard of it, but for those who haven't, basically, the more you see, hear things over a regular period of time, it's likely to nudge your behavior, so basically move you forward or make you do something with a response. So lots of you may have heard of like terrorism campaigns where they talk about you see something you say something, the more you hear it, the more you see it on adverts, posters, the more likely you'll change your behavior. So we based our program off this, and we got kids to talk to us around what it might be. And they said 3 things, really, if they need to tell someone. If you see something, and they pointed to their eye, really simple. So again, listening to kids, we did present a picture of a man with glasses. It was an outline of a man with glasses, and we asked them what they thought that meant, and they said they thought it meant a old man with glasses. Right? So the reason we should listen to kids and young people, because they tell us exactly what it is, but as adults we created that figure and it was wrong. So we said, what should you do for see? And they were like, well, eye. That's seeing, isn't it? So they just pointed at an eye. So really simple, but again, something as adults we got wrong. So again, for me, with children, young people, find these solutions. So they said, if you see something, or if you hear something, which is your ear, they point to, or again, hugely, if you feel something. And if you feel something, see, hear, or feel, you need to tell someone. Really, really simple. But what that's meant is that's actually meant that children and young people have a language around if they're worried or concerned about seeing something. That could be about behaviour in the home, it could be about behaviour in the Y, or outside in their local community, if they hear someone saying something, or if they feel something. And hands up in the room and online, even though I can't see everyone online, when have you felt something in your stomach where you felt a little bit uncomfortable? Have you all felt that at one point? Cool. So we've all got that gut feeling, right, which tells us a lot. So when you feel something, they came up with a really good thing, which was like a squiggly feeling in their stomach. And bear in mind, this isn't just for 3-year-olds, this works with our 18-year-olds, which we work with as well. So it's called our Stay Safe Tell Someone program, and we roll it out across our YMCAs in Australia. And so I'm going to go to the tech team because I do want the video up, if that's all right, in a second. I'm pushing them here to try and work online magic videos and my microphone. But we have a very short video, which a couple of our Y New South Wales team, which is a representation, so Brian's here, they actually created this video with kids and they spoke about it. So rather than me tell you, I'm going to finish by showing you the video of the kids telling you themselves what they actually did. Please work.
At the Y, we believe in the power of inspired young people. For children and young people to be inspired, they must feel safe and be safe. Everyone at the Y has the right to feel safe and be safe. Therefore, if you see something, hear something, or feel something that makes you feel worried or unsafe, tell someone. You can talk to any adult that you trust at the Y. You can write it down, send a text, call someone, or send an email. You can also make a report on our website. You will see a number of posters around to remind you. And remember, everyone has the right to feel safe and be safe at the Y, in their families and in their communities.
Beautiful. So just a small program, and again, something which we can do and collaborate across. So that's something which has happened in the Y in this space. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to get you again to turn to the person next to you, but because actually just before we do that, online and offline, it's the joys of the world, because it's a dark room and I don't want to bore you to sleep. I'm going to get you to do one little small kid activity to keep it young person centered, and you would have all done this, so all stand up for me. And then we're going to, so what I'm going to ask you to do is to reach up. There you go. Touch your toes. See how flexible you are. Spin round, but don't fall over for me. Hopefully you haven't been drinking. Good. Touch your toes again. And then do a little jump in the air. Hey, good. So hopefully you got a bit of energy. Perfect. So I want you now to turn to the person next to you or find someone else and think of any questions you may have for any of these awesome panel members. We've got about 20 minutes to ask them questions, so I would love some questions from you. And also on the online world, please type them in. So a couple of minutes to discuss. Cool. First question which came in was from a couple of people online, which we asked, and I'm going to direct it to Sam and Ella on this space. So people asked around, oh, there's the golden retriever. Look, there we go. Hey, it's all good, Ella. It's all good. It makes it more fun. They're not eating a plant, so it's fine. So a question we've had is around how can these programs be adapted to a different cultural context, either across the world or with our Indigenous communities? And we know, particularly in Canada and Australia, we have Indigenous communities. But if people are picking them up and lifting them to different continents, is there any learnings or key things you would suggest to them? So Sam, should we come to you first?
Sure. Yeah, we noticed in those first 5 cycles where we were collecting data that we didn't have proportional representation from our Indigenous participants. And so when we received the funding from our Ministry of Health, we decided to put some of those funds aside to look at that question specifically. We did an Indigenous cultural adaptation. We hired an Indigenous consultant. We set up an Indigenous advisory that still meets sort of quarterly, biannually at this point. And we fully just looked at our curriculum to say, how are we welcoming Indigenous participants, whether they were in their own communities or coming into our downtown Ys in Vancouver. Based on that work, we piloted through Indigenous partnerships. So again, we don't parachute Y staff into an Indigenous community. We train their own trusted people to deliver the program. We started with 19 communities with our teen and youth program. We've trained over 25 now and delivered in about the same, and seeing good results. And again, it's that question between fidelity and context and changes according to, we have many different First Nations in BC, I think over 20 language groups. So we don't have a pan-Indigenous program. We have a framework and concepts and curriculum that then is adapted within those communities to fit their cultural context. And it's that flexibility that makes us invited into those communities. We, again, our approach is to put out a request for LOI. So different First Nations community who have the capacity and the interest put up their own hands and say they would like to work with us rather than us, trying to impose a program that may not work on a community. So we've really, since the adaptation was done in 2019. We have a separate evaluation of the Indigenous work that we've done. And again, looking at our evaluation tools over time, we've adapted those, talked to communities, asked them what works and what doesn't. And it's slightly different tools. And of course, it's always optional, but we've seen the results from that work. So happy to share that as well with those who reach out.
Ella, should we come to you? Thanks so much, Sam. I really appreciate that. That's great. Ella, any thoughts or reflections from yourself?
Yeah, I think just to add to that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
There we go. I think just acknowledging that we can't just copy and paste a program in different contexts. It just doesn't work, and it's colonial. It's problematic, and we just shouldn't do it, plainly simple. So I think what Sam was highlighting, that we do need to adapt. So perhaps having frameworks instead, guiding principles that can be applied and that can vary according to the local needs of the community. And just having the approach that there is no approach that's superior or inferior when we are considering different cultures, particularly with Indigenous communities. Recognizing the plain fact that Indigenous people do know more about their own health and wellness than expert non-Indigenous practitioners do. And I think we do need to be really mindful with the framing of that, the framing of people from these communities as experts of their own health, and making sure that we do any programs that are adapted are absolutely in partnership and being led by the people in their community. But also completely echo what Sam was saying.
Beautiful. Thank you. Do that one. Awesome. So I'm going to look up into the sky. And who wants to put their hand up? Who's got a question for Matias, Daniel, or any of our panel members? Oh, yes. Sorry, come there. Do you want to stand up, say your name and where you're from?
Okay.
And your question?
My name's Sawyer Nelson. I'm from YUSA in Central New York.
Mm-hmm. Woo! There you go.
So my question is, so in my world where I live, a lot of my friends struggle with mental health issues. I have in the past and still do a little bit. And seeing all the work we do as individuals, individual YMCAs and organizations around the world, but what do you think we should do going forward on a personal level and as a YMCA as a whole moving forward to help reduce those statistics?
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing as well around your mental health. We appreciate that. I'm going to, just after this, I'm going to come to Matias first. So Matias, hopefully I can hear you, and then I'm going to come to Daniel. So any thoughts or reflections to that response?
Do you hear me now, Phil?
Yes, we got you.
Great. So that's a great question, and I think that it's beautiful to realize that this is not a task that can be made only with institutions. We need that all of us in individual form, but collaborating, connecting with others, we can try to improve our mental health. Mental health is connected with well-being, so it's not necessary to be on the field of mental disorders to talk about mental health. Mental health is much broader than that. So being with your friends, sharing some time, asking them if they are in trouble, that's very important actions of prevention of mental disorders and to improve well-being. When YMCA and other institutions are preventing, for example, violence, are preventing any type of problems that may be related with mental disorders, we are doing mental health. So in that way, any community, any person can collaborate in a very specific way, and we all together can be building and improving this. It's like at the first view a very complex and wide problem, but when we build together, we can say that it's a problem that we can improve. So collaboration is very important to try to advance on this. I'm sorry to go to the stakeholder discussion, but I think that we need more financing for mental health. You already saw during this morning that there are beautiful programs that are being implemented in different parts of the world. And many of those programs can be scaled up, can be implemented in more countries, can be translated, culturally adapted, but we need more funds to do that. There are a lot of teams and very capable people working on this. So I think that if you have a chance to work in something, an NGO or at your government, something related to mental health, please do it. We need more people, we need more finance and more collaboration to advance on this. I'm hopeful that this is going to advance in a good way. I think that COVID was a very difficult situation for the whole globe. But at the same time, one of the things that we learned from COVID, the pandemic, is that there's no health without mental health. That mental health should be in a whole of society approach, in a whole of policy approach, and don't try to to solve mental health only with the Ministry of Health or only doing some specific mental health treatment. Let's try to broaden our perspective. Let's try to go to the prevention, to promotion, and that's communities, and that's society, and that's individuals. So I hope that you get the message that we all can do something, and we can continue advancing on this. This panel and the YMCA effort is one example of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Matias. Daniel, do you want to add to that?
I will only add that I totally agree with Matias, that as we all know that the pandemic increased many of the mental disorders that young people or people in general had. But we also, the pandemic made more evident that was like a red light, that we have to do something to tackle that problem. So I think that is such a great opportunity to have or to increase our networks, our programs that we are developing, and not only specifically mental health programs, but we can make a strategy to have mental health content in all our programs, even if sports, community services, education. We have to have a prevention component, promotion, raise awareness about mental health in all our programs to try to tackle and to decrease those high percentages of mental disorders.
Beautiful. Thanks, Daniel. And I think what I'm hearing there as well is that the YMCA is one piece of the jigsaw puzzle in this space, and actually we need to work with our local providers, but also the key thing around prevention over cure, as we always know works for that. So as we come to the last sort of 5 minutes, I'm going to come to, I had a great time on the plane over here. I didn't lose my luggage, so I was very lucky out of that space. So sorry, Daniel. But I met an incredible young person I'm going to come to from England. Sorry, Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot here. But has developed a mental health first aid kit just based on another organisation, but some of those factors you were seeing. So if it's all right, Matt, I know I've briefed you about this, that I'm going to come to you, so he's prepared, so I'm not that horrible. But you happy just to share very briefly what that is? Sorry, I get my feedback. What that is, what you did, and I might come to the panel then for some closing thoughts around this. So give Matt a big welcome, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Oh, hello. My name is Matt Sewell. I work for YMCA Derbyshire. I am a housing navigator, so my specialty is I work with 16 to 25-year-olds that are homeless, and as such, we experience a lot of mental ill health through that. During sort of the Christmas time, January, February time, mental health was in the gutter. For a lot of our residents, we had 86 residents, and at that point, we were seeing 3 self-harm incidents and 1 suicide attempt a day. And for the residents, that was very distressing, but also for our staff, having to deal with that, having to see that, and having to perform first aid was very traumatic. So I went away and I thought, what could we do to make things easier on both our residents and also our staff members? And so I did a little bit of research and we came up with the mental health first aid. This is the kit here. And each unit is less than £5, so it's dirt cheap and it's so safe to use. And within it, there's a number of things that we look at. So there's 3 pillars that we look at this for, is to perform first aid, to distract the young person, and also to offer support. So within this kit, like a normal first aid kit, there's bandages, wipes, and plasters. And that is sort of the first aid part, because we want to promote autonomy over how they're feeling. We want to give them the chance that they can help themselves recover. But this doesn't mean that we're not going to do it for them. We'll always check it and make sure that no wounds are getting infected and things like that. Other things that we've got within this kit is we've got an elastic band. And I know, why am I talking about that? It's stupid. It's actually not. So having an elastic band against your skin and snapping it also creates the same sort of sensation as you would almost get with cutting yourself. The best feature about this one, and something I'm very proud of, is the non-verbal cue cards. So it's the size of a small business card. You open it up, and within it, there's a little questionnaire that the young person can fill out. And it says, help, I've self-harmed. And within that, what it's got is, I've cut myself, I've burnt myself, I've taken this, I've drank alcohol, and all it asks is that, and where you've harmed yourself, and they can give that to a staff member and a handshake, and no one will ever see it. What that then promotes is that promotes help me, but without making it obvious to other residents and other young people. And all the information that you use in that card can be given to the first aid service, can be given to the paramedics, and anyone that's going to help them so that they know what they can do next. So when you're on the phone to the ambulance saying, this person's done this, 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 and this, instead of having to get them to sit there and answer the questions, which can be traumatizing in itself, you can answer all the questions on their behalf. Within that as well, you've also got a little whiteboard, little activities you can do to distract yourself. You can create a distraction box. You can answer a few questions like, what's my 5 favorite films at the moment? And also there's little fidget toys within here as well. And since we rolled this out, I had 10 kits, and within the first week, they were all gone, and it went down, and within the last 3 months, we've had 1 self-harm. The proof's in the pudding. Since then, once I return next week, I've got a meeting with the City Council from my local area with the goal of putting it in all children's care homes in the city of Derbyshire. So I thought I'd come and share this today. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, panel, for letting me introduce this. And I'm all for pushing it. So if you want any information, it's free. I'll give all the resources, and let's help young people. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Matt. See, the power of connection, which our panel have talked about, talking to people, and also the power of inspired young people, which we have right here. So just another round of applause for an incredible young person. So I know it's been a whirlwind of 90 minutes. I'm going to go to the panel for your closing thought. I know there's a lot we've talked about, and it's a huge area, but kind of one closing short statement which you might give, and maybe something to the group to call to action, or something which you can invigorate them to go away and take something away, or something they can do, or one key thought from you. So, Sam, is it okay if I come to you first in the room? Online, sorry.
Sure. Just echoing Matt, there is mental health first aid, just around that piece around resilience and training staff about how to listen and refer participants who are having troubles. Sometimes with our youth, they want to dive into the problem solving for other youth, and that may not be appropriate according to the youth's needs. But some of those trainings around how to listen and support without diving in is really critical. So just encourage everyone to look at those resources are out there. They're online. There's online training. So really encourage you and your Ys to reach out to those resources as you can.
Thanks, Sam. And we'll come to Matias.
Thank you, Phil. I think there has been very good messages, but I want to finish with one small thought. I think that mental health, and we all understand, is an integral part of our general health. So let's try not to separate anymore mental and physical health. And also well-being, and that's why mental health is a basic human right. And having a good mental health means that we are better able to connect, to function, to work, to cope, to thrive. So that's it's a very important part of all of us. And each of us can strengthen our skills and competencies in understanding and looking after our own mental health and the mental health of our families, classmates, workmates, and everyone that is near us. So everyone in the community needs to support social inclusion. for people with living with mental health conditions to promote rights-based, person-centered, recovery-oriented care and support. So the message is that we all can do something about this. We all can bring a grain of sand that can be small but important when we all collaborate. And finally, advocacy can be also very, very important because we need more awareness and we need more stakeholders and decision makers interested in this field. Thank you, YMCA, and the rest of the panelists for the possibility of being with me. Thank you.
Thanks, Matias. Ella, it must be about 1 a.m., so I'm going to give you your last closing thought before you can sleep.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I've loved hearing everyone's thoughts tonight. I think a couple of quick thoughts just to sort of leave you all on. I imagine that you're about to go and sort of have some great brainstorming and discuss some programming and different ideas. And I think one thing I really want you to do is early on have honest, vulnerable conversations about how things will work with the young people that are involved in your programs, and come with questions, not answers, and really listen to the young people that you're working with. And take time to agree on language. I think we really need to emphasize the role of language, of fundamental elements like, the purpose, the goals, the objectives, the activities of what you're going to do, and really be sure that everyone actually means the same thing when you say the same word. That's where I think we get a lot of mixed signals. So really take that time to be sure that you're all on the same page. And again, just with language, it's ever evolving. Previously, we've said sort of the lived experience community of mental health. It's now changing to living experience, acknowledging that, mental health isn't something that really just ends. These things, you really can't say stay still in the mental health world. It's ever evolving. So I think really my end message is to trust young people to be the experts and ask lots of questions and be open and curious to the responses that you get. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ella. Daniel, your final thought?
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here. And I will close my presentation because saying that I think we are, right now, we have to be more focused in reducing the stigma, also promoting the awareness about mental health. So I think it's one of the most important things to doing here in the YMCA. So I have heard this from many of the programs that have shared today. And I think so we have this opportunity to increase the work that we are doing in favor for young people, and also to give the opportunity for young people to feel that they are safe in our spaces, that they feel comfortable expressing their feelings, and so I think it's a big word for us that give us that security when young people are working or being benefit from our programs.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. Awesome. Well, can we give it another huge round of applause to our incredible panel, which I'm... So just from me, truly grateful to spend this time with you for 90 minutes from incredible people from across the world and online in our panel, but also each and every one of you. My piece now is obviously, you can't pour from an empty cup, the whole self-care piece around mental health, that you need to look after yourselves. We're in a beautiful city. If you're online as well, you're in beautiful places. Go for a walk, do something which brings you joy. I know we've talked about some difficult topics, so take that time for yourself. But thank you so much for joining us. I hope this has been a good experience for you and something you can take away and call to action as we go into the collabs in the next few days to start to create solutions for young people, with young people, and by young people. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Ella. Would love to follow up with you at some point.
Yeah, I agree. It was great to